I understand the providential set of circumstances that would allow a little Black girl who grew up on a pig farm in southern Alabama to be standing here today. I grew up in a house with no insulation, no running water. When my grandmother used to ask me to come and help her in the garden, I thought she just wanted to spend quality time with me. I had no idea it was for our survival. I tell my children often, because of the sacrifices of those who have come before us, both white and Black, we have an obligation in this country to live well. That if I am willing to put forth the effort, if I am willing to work, if I am willing to discipline myself, perhaps I won't be Oprah Winfrey or Bill Gates, but that in America, I can carve out a respectable life for myself. Every 4 years, Democrats come to minority communities with a bag full of promises: free education, universal health care, open borders, guaranteed jobs, guaranteed wages. I have had a front row seat of watching failed liberal policies literally devastate the Black community, that they are now presenting to the broader American culture with the exact same promise to leave all of us broke, broken, and bruised. They will cause me to look at my brown skin as though it has betrayed me in some fashion. I am not a victim. We are victors. If you want to eradicate income inequality, give someone a job, not another program. I believe politics is dirty by design. They intend for good people not to get involved. And for so long, good people like myself and you, we've been sitting on the sidelines. If you want to send good people to Washington, D.C., who will finally begin to represent you and your family, then I need your support. I am running for you to preserve this nation for the next generation. My name is Kathy Barnett, and I am running for U.S. Congress for the 4th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. I am Kathy Barnett, candidate for Congress, and I approve this ad. I understand the providential set of circumstances that would allow a little Black girl who grew up on a pig farm in southern Alabama to be standing here today. I grew up in a house with no insulation, no running water. When my grandmother used to ask me to come and help her in the garden, I thought she just wanted to spend quality time with me. I had no idea it was for our survival. I tell my children often, because of the sacrifices of those who have come before us, both white and Black, we have an obligation in this country to live well. That if I am willing to put forth the effort, if I am willing to work, if I am willing to discipline myself, perhaps I won't be Oprah Winfrey or Bill Gates, but that in America, I can carve out a respectable life for myself. Every 4 years, Democrats come to minority communities with a bag full of promises: free education, universal health care, open borders, guaranteed jobs, guaranteed wages. I have had a front row seat of watching failed liberal policies literally devastate the Black community, that they are now presenting to the broader American culture with the exact same promise to leave all of us broke, broken, and bruised. They will cause me to look at my brown skin as though it has betrayed me in some fashion. I am not a victim. We are victors. If you want to eradicate income inequality, give someone a job, not another program. I believe politics is dirty by design. They intend for good people not to get involved. And for so long, good people like myself and you, we've been sitting on the sidelines. If you want to send good people to Washington, D.C., who will finally begin to represent you and your family, then I need your support. I am running for you to preserve this nation for the next generation. My name is Kathy Barnett, and I am running for U.S. Congress for the 4th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. I am Kathy Barnett, candidate for Congress, and I approve this ad. Hello, everyone. How are you? This is Kathy Barnett. Welcome to our weekly BYOB. What are y'all drinking? Y'all know I don't drink anything over water or, I don't know, Sprite. But nonetheless, feel free to share what it is that you guys are doing. Who's hosting a watch party? Let us know. Share it in the comments. We would love to give you guys a shout out. If you have a photo that you want to upload, we'll put that out there for everyone to see. I would love that, right? Because this is all about us. This is why we're doing this. I knew from the very beginning that I could not do this, right? This is a formidable task. This is like, this is no small feat that we're doing here. And I always knew that I could not do it without each of you. And in fact, we have a really special treat because we asked you guys to provide us with a quick video of why you're voting for me. We asked for your why. Why now are you voting? For me, why are you not voting Democrat if you've always voted Democrat before? We want to hear your why. We all have a journey. And here is the journey of Miss Wendy.
Hi, I'm Wendy, and I'm voting for Kathy Barnett because I have everything to gain and everything to lose. I see myself in Kathy. She knows the issues and how they relate to all Pennsylvanians. She's a fantastic communicator. She grew up in a pig farm in Alabama, and I grew up what used to be in a little farming town in Pennsylvania. We were raised with the same Christian values and family support. She's a woman that I deeply respect and admire, not only for her military service, but for the courage of her convictions. So if you ask me why I'm voting for Kathy Barnett, why wouldn't I? She's an amazing woman, and she's going to fight for Pennsylvania. Kathy Barnett, 2020.
I love it. Oh my goodness, guys. I love it. Wendy, thank you. If you are watching and listening, there you go. I think I met you, right? This weekend at another event. Wendy, thank you so much for sharing. I truly appreciate that. Guys, let me tell you, there is power in sharing our testimonies. There is power in sharing our journey. We all have a journey. I have talked to you about my journey from a pig farm that is leading me straight to Washington, D.C. I've told you guys about my journey, the good, the bad, the struggles, right? The commitment, the focus and determination, all of that. I want to hear your journey in life that brings you to where you find yourself today, your why on why you're voting for me. Please go to Kathy Barnett for Congress.com/why. What's your why? I want to know your why you're voting for us. Why do you find yourself right here in this moment in time, looking at the world in a way that you are, that perhaps you haven't before? A quick video, upload it, go to Kathy Barnett for Congress.com/why. Okay, I have a treat for you guys. We're talking all things COVID, all things public school, because before anything, I'm a mom. If you have been out at any of these rallies or meet and greets or just out on the road with me, my babies are with me generally. And I will oftentimes stop what I'm doing in the middle of a speech and admonish my children or call them back over towards me. I'm a mom first. Beginning and in every way in between. And I want to know what is the data? What are the facts? What are we looking at when we're talking about COVID? Because if you're like me, it's very difficult to read any piece of information and not see the agenda behind it. And so, guys, that is why I am bringing back Dr. Frank. Dr. Frank, welcome.
How you doing, Kathy? Good to be back.
Oh, guys, I am so excited to have Dr. Frank with us. He is such a treat. Let me get his very long bio so I can share just a little bit of it. He's such a genius. Listen, Dr. Frank received a BA in chemistry from Westmore College in Santa Barbara, California. He qualified for his doctorate at the University of California, Santa Barbara, before transferring to the University of Cincinnati as part
of the program there in Ohio. In 1990, he received a PhD in surface analytical chemistry. After graduating, he formed Atom Instrument Company Incorporated, named for the new surface analysis technique he discovered during his graduate studies. The atom technique brought him international acclaim, and his work was featured in several scientific books and international journals. He has over 50 scientific publications and is internationally regarded as an expert in Auger pronounce it.
Spectroscopy.
Yes. Dr. Frank currently serves as the Math and Science Chair at the Schilling School for Gifted Children in Cincinnati, Ohio. He is also the president of Precision Analytical Instruments. Thank you, Dr. Frank, for letting us borrow your very big brain just for this hour. We appreciate it.
I am so glad to be here. And I'm so proud of you. I love that commercial that you have running at the beginning. I got to watch it twice. I think it's fantastic. You're what I call a super mom. And one of the fun things for me on the Dr. Frank Models page is that I've met several super moms. And I think you guys are the untapped resource of our country. We need you ladies up there fighting for us. You're no nonsense, bottom line, deliver for our babies. I love that.
That's what it's all about, right?
Exactly.
It's not just my babies, but the babies of this district, the babies of this nation.
Yeah.
It is preserving this nation for the next generation. And, you know, I mean, and you know, I think I did mention to you, you know, someone had asked me, what has been one of the greatest challenges that you've had in this journey of running for Congress? And it did not take me very long to just blurt out, people treating me like a politician.
Yeah.
That is perhaps one of the hardest things I've had to come to grips with. I'm not going to persuade them otherwise. And I have had people treat me like a politician. And the first time it happened, I was shocked. I was like, oh my goodness, he's treating me like a politician. I'm not. I love my country. I love my babies. I love this nation. I have driving from one end of the district to the other, I have come to have such a great appreciation for the people in the Congressional 4th District. That is my motivation, is to preserve our nation because it is in trouble. But nonetheless, Dr. Frank, I have to say really quickly, because it's, you know, out of all the things you've done, including your very large brain, one of the things that perhaps impressed me the most is what you do with these very gifted kids that also have very large brains, that you or minds rather. They have very large minds, very informed minds, and what you do every single year. And one year back in 2016, talk to us about the model you and these extremely intelligent young people did, and what was the result?
You were talking about the election?
Yes.
So I'm the math and science chair at the Schilling School, and I teach usually the upper level math and science classes, and our kids are really bright. My friend jokes with me that I teach NASA kids, and so they're really bright kids. So we have time to learn the material we need to learn, but we also have time to apply it to a real life situation. So every year I choose something real. And every 4 years, we always choose the election because everybody cares and all the kids care. And we start usually about a year in advance, and we predict who's going to win the election. And I teach them how to do all this fancy mathematics and to do the prediction. And I've been doing it myself since Ronald Reagan. That was my first election. So I teach them how to do that. And we predicted 13 months in advance that Trump was going to be the winner. And we predicted the odds would be 2-1. Everybody said we were insane, but the math was like brutally obvious. So, you know, I stuck with it because I always go with the math. I always follow the data.
So out of everything you've done, that is perhaps the most impressive to me.
Well, you learn a lot when you make a prediction that goes against the flow. It's people just come at you like you must be crazy, and people insult you and everything. But then in the end, guess who's left standing? The person who stuck with the data, the person who followed the data. And I've been following that same same philosophy with the COVID stuff. Start right from the beginning. Follow the data. Let the data tell you what's going on, not the politicians. And I'm not saying
Right.
you're a politician. You're a pig farmer, so you have you have the right qualifications to go to Washington because you know how to work with pork. But sorry, I'm a science.
You couldn't help it. You couldn't help it. I know. It just flowed right out of you. I saw it coming. Listen. So, and this year, 2020, you were gearing up to once again pull out all of this data and instruments and try to figure out mathematically who's going to win. But something happened. COVID happened. Talk to us about that. And talk to us about this, just the start of that.
Sure. So because it was an election year, I was getting all ready to do that. But one of my students at the school is from China. His parents live right next to Wuhan. So instead of that, I just went ahead and put up my own prediction anyway. I did that in January. And then we modeled COVID because my student wanted to know, how is his parents doing? And usually in election years, I do elections. But then in off years, we do sunspots. We do and we do epidemics. We did the Ebola epidemic. We did SARS. We did AIDS. So we've done several epidemics. So that's usually in the cycle anyway. So I just said, okay, we won't do the election this year. We'll do Ebola, not Ebola. We'll do COVID instead. And so we started modeling right in December. Actually, I spent half of my Christmas vacation tooling up for it.
Okay, so that is, and this is where we meet, because someone said you have to go and just start listening to this guy named Dr. Frank and his models. And so I just peeked my head, and you guys are so gracious because you've been doing this for a while. You have a new person come in, ask a question that you guys have settled months ago, but you actually have people who come alongside and try to help us understand the data. And that is the reason why I think you are perhaps the perfect person to come and help us, because at the end of the day, first of all, I'm not a politician, but I know to some of you, I'm not going to be able to convince. So I recognize that, but I just want to hear the facts, Dr. Frank, because I am a mom and I have homeschooled my kids for the past 6 years, but this year they are going to public school. And I love my babies. I mean, they are a game changer, right? I mean, I can put up with a whole lot until you come to my children. And whether conservative or liberal or black or white, I want to know what is really going on. What is the data really telling us? Because I want my babies to be safe first and foremost. And then I want my family as a whole to be safe. So please walk us through the data in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Help us understand what's really going on.
So I can start. I've got a screen I can share. If you guys will put it up there, I can walk you guys through it. Very good. I'll bring that up here. Let's see here. Got to get that going. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So here's the United States. I always like to start, it's like that video you can watch where they zoom in from space. And so I like starting from the big context and working your way in. And this graph is for the whole United States. It's from the data just for today. I prepared this just for this program. So this is about as current as you can get.
Okay.
And what we have is in the back, far away from us, that's back at basically the beginning of March. And then as you move forward in time, that comes closer to you. So you can see here's the whole United States. And you notice, and then on this axis, vertically, that's how many deaths happen in the United States. And then I've got all the states right across from here. So you're in Pennsylvania. So you're over here, there's this green line here. And you notice that there's a bump there. And your bump is right in sync with all the other big bumps. There was a big epidemic back in the middle of April in the United States. Now, after the epidemic's over, a lot of states go back and do adjust their numbers, so it makes these spikes here at the end. But I went ahead and averaged those out a little bit, so you can tell I smoothed it out a little bit to make it smoother, and you can really see this nice big peak. So we've already finished that first big wave in the United States, and now we've got a few later epidemics coming in a few states, especially near the southern border, because the Mexican epidemic started after we finished ours, and some of it's leaking back to us. So that's what you basically got. That's the United States. And now, if I were to pull out that green curve that's right there, that's Pennsylvania, you can see yourself relative to other states. This is just your curve only. And you can see yours has the same peak everybody else had back, and now it's been decaying. And there's like a little sustaining here. And I'm not sure if that's real, whether those are actually deaths with COVID or whether those are deaths from COVID. Because what happened is all of our hospitals tooled up to handle all this massive epidemic that was going to happen. And they invested all the resources in that and didn't take elective surgeries anymore. So they lost a lot of money. So they're trying to recover their money. So they're going to declare every case they can to be COVID. So that could be that. I don't know for sure because Pennsylvania isn't super transparent with their data.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Dr. Frank, before you move any further, okay, so the very first model you showed us a little bit of where everyone is peaking. Can you go back up to the first one? Now the blue peak there, who is that? New York?
That's New York. That's New York.
Okay. And then the one right after, kind of orange.
Yeah, that's New Jersey. And then California's next. And you notice that California didn't have much of an epidemic with everybody else, but they have now. That's all Southern California. Yeah,
all Southern California because of what is leaking over from Mexico. Yep. Okay, and so then the second graph takes the green bar there.
Yes,
and it just looks at the green. And so this really high Eiffel Tower peak happened when? What months are those?
This peak looks right about May 1.
May 1, okay. And then move over a little bit more to the second, that peak, the second peak.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's the middle of May.
Okay. And so now we find ourselves down here. How many deaths, all the way to the end where we are now, how many deaths is that? This is all of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, how many deaths is that? I wrote that number down for you earlier. That is, sorry, it's not off the top of my head. I'll find it here in a second. It's down here, I promise. Here it is. Here you go. It's 7,800 deaths.
In Pennsylvania?
Yes.
And what month?
That's about 0.06% of your population. It's a very
0.06% of the population. Okay. Now go back up and you can start on the third one, I think. I think it was the third chart down.
Yes. Okay, good.
Okay.
Now, I like this chart here. I like to start with this with people because you can kind of see how the whole country's doing, right? I mean, obviously, New York was a big epidemic.
And very concentrated in certain areas.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't know if it's just because it's Democrat-held areas. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not.
Now you are sounding like a politician.
I know, right? I'm not. I'm just making an observation, people.
Very good. Okay. Well, I always tell people start here because this is where you can see your state and see how it kind of compares. Like the green, for example, it looks like about 5 times smaller. So you've had about 5 times less deaths than New York, for example. So you can kind of see that. But you had your peak when they had their peak. But look, it's basically over now, isn't it? So that's in this. You can see it. You're basically finished. Now, this is another way to look at. Once you've kind of looked at the overall story, you can zoom in and look at per county. So here we go. In the back is in the past, near the beginning of March. And then as we come towards the front, this is the present here in the beginning. And I've got all of your counties listed across the front here. And then notice for example, you had a big peak in Philadelphia County. And it happened right when, along with the other counties and along with the rest of the United States. But look, each of these peaks is fading out. So the number of deaths is fading to near zero. You've got a little bit going on, looks like in Allegheny still, and a little bit left in Philadelphia, a little bit left in Northumberland, but just about everywhere else is done.
Now, where's Montgomery County on that map? On that chart.
And I knew you were going to ask because you're from Montgomery County, so I zoomed in on it for you. And so here's a zoom in on Montgomery County. Here you go. So here's Montgomery County, and you notice that Montgomery County is this peak right here. You had a pretty good peak back with everybody else, but look at
all in nursing homes.
Yep, and it's all faded away now. It's basically you have Basically, no deaths in the last week, it looks like, or very low number of deaths, maybe 1 or 2. So you're done in Montgomery County. Your epidemic is finished. If people, when I tell people that, they're like, well, wait a minute. When we listen to the news, we hear about all these cases, but how come you aren't showing cases? Well, that's a long story, but the bottom line is that cases are really not cases anymore. I mean, if you're sick and you have symptoms and you go to the doctor and you say, I'm sick, doctor, and he gives you a test for COVID and you come out positive, everybody will believe that's a case. But nowadays, that's not how they're getting most of their quote unquote cases. Now they're going out and randomly testing thousands and thousands of people. I checked earlier, you're testing 25,000 people a day in your state. And when you test that many people, you find false positives. And you find people who have had it in the past that don't currently have it, but they still test positive. I always like to use the example. You're a mom, so you'll relate to this. Let's say you missed your period this month. And you're thinking, what if I wonder if I'm pregnant? So you go to the store and you buy a pregnancy test, and you pee on the stick and you look at it and it says you're positive. You know what? You're probably pregnant. Okay. But you had a symptom first, right? You missed your cycle. So you're thinking, okay, maybe I'm pregnant. Whereas if most people are laugh when they hear this, but if you took 100 men, okay, none of these men missed their period this month. Okay. You take 100 men and you give them the same pregnancy test, 1 or 2 of them will test positive. And people are like, how can that be? Well, it's because it's not really a pregnancy test. It's a test that looks for certain chemicals and certain hormones. And sometimes men have those hormones in their systems. And so they come back positive. So that's the problem with testing people randomly, is you get a certain number of false positives. And I have those data for you. I can show those later to you too as well. So I don't really think they're real cases for you, or if they are, there are very few of them. And you can see that.
I mean, and it was you that I heard for the very first time, the very first person who I heard say, we should not be counting cases,
right,
but we should be counting deaths.
Yes.
And again, it's because how we are finding out whether we're positive or not. It's like everyone is just going and taking a test. Whether you have symptoms or not, you're just going and taking a test.
Yeah, and that's not the way the test was designed. The test is supposed to, it's called prevalence. There's a certain percentage of people in a population that have it, and if the prevalence is super low, this kind of test is not the right kind of test. What you should do, for example, go back to the pregnancy thing. If you pee on the stick and it says you're positive, do you believe it? No. What do? You go to the doctor, and the doctor gives you a real test. And then he says, yep, you're pregnant. Congratulations, Kathy, you're going to have another child. And everybody's all happy about it. It should be the same with COVID. When you test positive in one of these tests, you should have to go to the doctor and get a more accurate test. And then that should be reported to the state. But that isn't the way it works. All the positive tests are reported as cases. And so it gives it inflates the number. It makes it look like there's a lot of cases when there isn't really a lot of cases. And
ultimately, what we care about, I mean, the reason why we as a nation, and specifically District 4, shut down our lives early part of March is because we wanted not to eradicate the very existence of this virus, but to give hospitals and others the time they needed to play catch up. We wanted to mitigate the spread of this virus. We did not enter in all of this to eradicate it. We entered into it to mitigate, to give our hospitals primarily the time to play catch up and not be overburdened. We're clearly there. And so it should not be cases, it should be deaths, or before you die, you have, some very exaggerated symptoms. And then those cases go to the hospital. And we have a hospital that now has the more than enough capacity to be able to take care of those particular people, right? And that is the reason why we pause. So right now I'm looking at what you're showing, and I'm thinking about my district, the district that I am very hopeful I will represent very soon.
I hope you do too.
Many of them, primarily, many of them, throughout, several schools have decided to go 100% virtual. for education in this first marking, which is interesting that it ends on November 4th, the day after the election. But I'm not gonna juxtapose anything on top of that. I'm just stating, I'm making an observation, people, once again, right? It's just very interesting to me that the marking in November 4th, the day after the election. But nonetheless, I'm following you on Facebook.
Yep.
I'm watching the data, and now you're breaking it down for us. This is the most current facts that we have, data that we have. And I'm looking at Montgomery County that says there are no deaths. So why are we doing 100% virtual? And in other places, in the majority, if you're not virtual, so we have a number of school districts that are going virtual 100%, but then you have an overwhelming majority that are doing hybrid, 2 days in, 3 days out. And I'm looking at these data again. We have many on the other side of the aisle that would say we're all about evidence-based data.
There's your
looking
evidence
at
right there.
Evidence-based data. Help me understand why our children are not going back to school.
You're asking
based
me
on your data, why are we not going back to school?
The data don't support that decision, in my opinion. I think it's a political decision, not a scientific decision. And I'm often quoted as something I say that science and politics don't play well together. People, thanks, Johnny, as my wife gave me. Science and politics don't play well together. When politics appropriate science, it doesn't come to science for information. It comes to science to find information it wants to support its agenda. And so, if faced with these data, your epidemic's over. So why are you behaving this way? There must be something else going on.
And now there are a number. Yes, we have politics on one side, and I feel very confident that a large portion of what we're seeing all throughout our nation, not just in how we're dealing with COVID, but the rioting and the looting, there's a political bent to it. But then I drill down, and I have met a number of people who are genuinely fearful about COVID, and that if they send their children. For example, there are a number of parents who have the option of sending their kids to hybrid, 2 days in school, in-person schooling, 3 days virtual schooling, and they have elected to do 100% virtual schooling themselves. And these are not the kind of people like myself who just wanted to homeschool because I thought I could do a better job at it. They are fearful that the messaging that they're getting from whatever sources they're getting this information from is telling them, if you put your kids in school, this virus is going to attack them, or the probability is very high. And again, as a mama bear, right? I don't care I don't care that President Trump said I can go back to school if my children can go to school. If the data is showing me that my kids will be susceptible, that they will be harmed, my babies are not going to school, right? We will figure it out as well. But I'm looking at the data, I'm following what you're doing on Facebook, and I'm walking away saying, why are we not opening up our schools? But I also see that there are some who are very legitimately concerned about their children. So can you talk to us about the children? How many kids have died? What is the susceptibility of children of contracting this disease?
Well, I went to the CDC and downloaded the CDC data. Just there. This is a good way to answer that question. And what this is this graph shows you how many thousands of people have died from COVID in the United States across the whole country. And then this is from February all the way till August 22nd. And you notice there's that big peak that you guys had in Pennsylvania too, right? Everybody had this big peak.
Yeah.
But notice what they've done is they've separated it by age group. So this top red curve, these are people that are 85 years and older. And you can tell it hit them the hardest. and then it dropped off, and then there's this extra little bump here from the southern states. And then the yellow curve is the 75 to 84, and the purple curve is from 65 to 74. And notice it gets younger and younger and younger as you move to the bottom. But see this blue line along the bottom? This blue line that looks like a straight line, that looks like it's on 0?
Yes.
That's from 0 to 24 years old. So that's the number of people that have died in the United States that are from 0 to 24 years old from COVID. You can't even distinguish it on this graph from 0. It's so small.
Okay, guys who are watching, can you guys see that little blue line? Because if you can't see that little blue line, that's the point.
I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see. See that blue line along the bottom?
Yeah, like that, like the little bright blue line, right?
Yes, right on the one that looks like it's right on the axis.
Yes, exactly.
If you didn't know, you would think that was the line, the horizontal axis.
Yes, exactly. I would think that's the horizontal line, but I saw that it's red colored.
Yes.
So, yeah, exactly. So, okay, guys. Okay, so the number, so this is national, right?
This is national.
And these numbers came from CDC.
Yes.
Okay.
This is right off the CDC webpage.
This is right off the CDC webpage. I know I have a number of Democrats and independents who are watching this. Yeah. A number of conservatives even who are watching this. This is not my opinion. I know you think I'm a politician. I am not a politician, but I know I'm not going to convince you otherwise. So that is the reason why I brought Dr. Frank on. This man, I have someone here who says, Dr. Frank, I think you need to be on national TV. Every single day going over the data. More people need to hear you. Paula said that. Someone else said, what was it? I saw it somewhere else. Someone else was talking about you, Dr. Frank. But nonetheless, this isn't from, we just need the data. Americans are not stupid. Put it back on me, guys. America is not stupid. We just need the facts, ma'am, and then allow us to take the information and make the right decisions. I keep trying to tell people, politicians did not flatten the curve. American people, we did that. We built that. We built that lower curve, not the politicians. The politicians come in, all of a sudden, they're stuffing COVID-19 positive patients into nursing homes. That's what politicians do. That's what these political leaders do. That's the best they have, is to take COVID-19 positive patients and stuff them into nursing homes and long-term care facilities. Why on God green earth would you now trust them? 93% of that spike that Dr. Frank just showed us in Montgomery County came from nursing home facilities. After Dr. Levin, our Secretary of Health, put out a mandate, the secretary's mother out of the nursing home, placed the mother into a comfortable hotel setting, apartment or hotel, right? Hotel, and then released the mandate that allowed for 93% of the deaths in Montgomery County to take place inside of our nursing homes. And my opponent did an interview with the secretary, Dr. Levine, and applauded Dr. Levine on a job well done.
Ouch.
On a job well done, my opponent said. Really? We did that because the American people are not stupid. We saw our president came before us. He told us the facts. He said we need to all get engaged. We need to do our part in mitigating, slowing down this spread. And we did that, not the politicians. When the politicians got involved, it went to hell in a handbasket. Everything just went out the window. They threw the baby and the bathwater out the window. It was just like game over. So pay attention on who's giving you the information. I don't know if you know this, Dr. Frank, but when asked to provide, when our Governor Wolf, was asked to provide the data that was being used to decide in our county, throughout the state, and specifically in our county, that restaurants cannot have more than 25 people or a certain percentage. I mean, basically, you cannot operate a business at, right? So
Right.
they gave a percentage that we can operate business, which of course you cannot operate a business successfully at. They asked for the data that would bring the governor to that conclusion. He looked in the camera and said, I have it, but I'm not going to give it to you.
Wow.
I mean, literally, if we could find that clip, we can play that. They're asking for it on a number of occasions. First, he says, yes, I will give it to you. But then in another interview, he said, yeah, I have it, but I'm not going to give it to you.
Wow.
And then smirk, right? And we're making choices based on what you just showed us. Put back up, Dr. Frank, flat model.
Here, I'll zoom in on that for you. Can you see it?
Yes, we can. Dr. Frank, I'm going to let you continue. I know, right?
I didn't know you were going to say that, but I have to tell you, I've been modeling all 50 states since February. Okay. So I have seen how each state releases information or doesn't release information. And Pennsylvania is not very transparent with their data. So what you just said confirms my personal opinion as well. There are other states that give amazingly detailed information. They tell you how many people of each age died and on which day and everything. And I've got some of those data in here that I wanted to show you guys, especially you moms and dads who are concerned about your babies. This first graph, though, I got because it just shows you, look, if you're a parent, you want to know, is my child at risk? If your child doesn't have some major comorbidity, you know, and even if they do have a comorbidity, they're young and strong and healthy, that blue line is their risk. They are at very, very low risk. So every parent should become much more comfortable just looking at that line. Your kids are relatively safe. And we were just talking about states that show data. A couple of weeks ago, I downloaded the data from the state of Florida. And what this graph is it shows you the number of cases going up. This is cases now, not deaths. And across here, this is the age of the person. And then here's the date. And I flipped the axis on you from earlier. Up close front to you, this is a long time ago. And then more recently is in the back. The reason I did that is because this peak's so big. If we did it from the other way, you couldn't see. So I flipped it front to back. So here's really old people. Here's really young people. Here's a while back. And as you move away, that comes to the present. So you notice that the people who are getting the cases, the people that are the most cases at the beginning, in the early days, were basically in this group. You can see here there weren't a lot of them, but it's basically uniformly spread about this, from here to here or so, maybe from 20 to 65 years old. And then that same group in Florida is also the main group that are getting the cases, that are testing positive for COVID. But watch what happens. Look at the most current data. So that would be in back. So older folks aren't getting as often, but then as they get younger and younger, by the time you hit about 60, it levels off. And then there's a peak basically in the 20 to 40 years old. These are the people that are out and about working. These are people that are interacting with a lot of other people in their job. But look what happens at about age 25. It starts to drop off rapidly. Look how rapidly this peak falls off. By the time you get to 15 years old, 10 years old, it's down way in the noise level. It's so few cases. So that's cases. That's how many people get the cases. And what I've done is I've basically
go back for a minute. Okay,
yeah.
No, just go ahead, because maybe you're gonna.
In other words, these are the kids in Florida. Now, keep in mind, this is for Florida. I'd do this for Pennsylvania if I could get the data, but you guys don't. But the state doesn't show the data. Florida shows it, so this is a good example. You notice that there are no babies. No babies. There's some, but the number of cases is small. 99% of the cases are working age people that are out and about interacting. So there aren't even many cases there. And when kids do get cases and they track them, they figure out, how did this kid catch it? They almost never find that a kid caught it from another kid. Usually they catch it from their parents. Now think about that. It makes perfect sense. The parents are out that are out there working. They're out there sharing it with each other. They go home at night, and what do? They kiss their babies.
They kiss their babies.
Yes. So it's not the kid-to-kid transfer that's the problem. It's the parent-to-kid transfer that's the problem. Your kids are probably safer at school with other kids than they are at home with mom and dad.
Oh my goodness, Dr. Frank, stop, because before you know it, we'll be going back to Hitler when he was trying to separate the children from the parents. So don't give these feckless and weak politicians new ideas. Put me back on the camera when I talk. So don't give them new ideas. That's the last thing we want.
I hear you. You're right. I'm talking specifically about COVID.
I know, but I'm telling you, God forbid, someone's watching. They're like, ooh,
right.
Bingo.
Well, okay.
That's what it is. We need to separate the children from the parents.
For their own safety, yes.
For their own, look, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
You have to do your part and release your children. I'm telling you, I can already see the commercial with the violin music playing in the background, and all of these liberals running out saying, you don't care about life if you don't surrender your children. Okay, I just had a moment there, because when you said
it, let her rip.
Because when you said it, I thought, oh no, don't give them any new ideas.
Well, okay. but people ask me all the time, I'm afraid to send my kids to school because I'm afraid that they're going to get sick and injured. But look, that's where they're safer. So you shouldn't be afraid to send them to school.
Now, what about the teachers? Because the teachers are so fearful. I went into one of my kids' classrooms, and I mean, goodness gracious, they got little plastic bubbles, literally. They're sitting behind little plastic bubbles. Everyone's sitting in a little plastic bubble, right? Because God forbid.
Well, I'm a teacher, and I teach at a school, and I've got about a dozen students. And if I was allowed, I'd be hugging them. I'm not afraid. But there are some older teachers who do have comorbidities. And even at our school, we've got a couple of teachers that are older. Our art teacher, for example, decided he would sit this year out because guess what? He has some real heart troubles and he's older. Guess what? He's vulnerable. So we should protect him. There's nothing wrong with that. No disgrace.
Nothing at all. And I've said it all the time. I do not want to shame anyone with legitimate fear. That's why I brought it up earlier. There are people who are legitimately afraid. I am not trying to scare you or bully you into doing something that your conscience does not want you to do. You go with your conscience. What I'm doing is trying to provide the best available data I've been able to find from someone that do not have a bone in the fight. You guys are like, how did that analogy go? A dog in the fight?
Yeah, dog in the fight, yes.
I'm horrible with analogies. When you get to know me, I mess them up all the time. But he doesn't have a dog in this fight, okay? I just wanted to bring someone with some good information, and I am hopeful that you will use this information in addition to the other information you're getting, and be able to use that to make the best decision for you and your family. Because like I've always said, this virus is serious, specifically to those who have a compromised immune system.
That's correct.
And to those particular people, yes, we need to do our part in protecting them and being very mindful of them, right? And so maybe you need to sit the school year out if you have such issue. But we should not now allow your issue to affect the other 99% of those who need and are ready and capable of getting back to work and getting back to life. Not life is normal, not life as usual. Some things have changed, but we need to be very mindful about that. So, Dr. Frank, I wanted to help us understand all the more COVID versus the flu.
Yes.
Is that a legitimate conversation? Because I hear people say, well, hey, more people die of the flu than COVID. So did we shut that down? Now, COVID seems to be much more menacing, much more life-threatening. If the wrong person with a compromised immune system should catch it versus someone versus that same person contracting the flu. Help us understand, because we don't want to be insensitive either, but it's almost like a knee-jerk react or thought to compare the two, although they're not the same. But how do we look at that?
Well, flu, are you guys showing my screen still? Are you guys still showing my graph?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Okay, good. I scrolled down from the cases and switched to deaths. And COVID is very different than the flu in an interesting way. It's particularly pernicious for older folks. This graph is the number of deaths in Florida, for example. This is a good example. And I've got the date across the front axis this time. So this is the past, and this is the present. And then I've got age. Here are the babies close to us, and here are the older folks far away from us. And you notice that in the whole state of Florida, you can count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were only 5 deaths in Florida, and actually only 3 of them were under 15. It doesn't hurt younger kids nearly as much, whereas the regular flu does. The COVID is really concentrated in these older ages. You can see it right here really clearly in the data, and that's a little different than the normal flu. The normal flu is more uniform. It kills people more across the spectrum. Now, here's another graph from the CDC webpage. This isn't one of my graphs. I just snipped this today right off the CDC graph because I knew we were going to be talking. And you notice that across the bottom axis here, this is date. So this is a couple 3 years ago, and this is today. And you notice that these are the number of people who die from all causes every day. And you notice here, 3 years ago, there were 60,000 people that died that day. And you notice it kind of drops off to about 50,000. Then it comes up and it peaks. Whoa, it peaked. That was in January of 2018. Then it comes down again, and then it peaked a little bit. That was the flu season in January of 2019. Then it faded out again, and then it came up, and you can see the flu happening again. So, you could call this whole stuff here the flu because it's the flu season coming in. And then COVID hit after that. So if you were to count up all that blue stuff that's in there and compare it to all this blue stuff that's right here, it's about the same amount. In other words, flu in a normal year kills about 60,000 people normally. And back here in 2018, you notice, if I zoom in on that a little bit, you can see it should have been like this. And you notice if it had just smoothed over, kind of like last year, just kind of smoothed over, guess what? That difference, look at that. It's about the same as what's over the line this time. So it's comparable. The number of deaths is comparable to a normal flu year. It's a little more perhaps, but part of the confusion of that is that I think these numbers are inflated because hospitals get paid an awful lot of money if they have a COVID death and not so much if they have just a regular flu death. So just about everything is getting labeled COVID these days. So I think these numbers are a little high. In fact, I think they're about a factor of 3 high. But even if they were correct and exactly right, you notice that the bumps it's not out of the ordinary. Maybe a little more than usual. So
let me ask you
how
this.
does it compare to COVID? How does it compare to normal flu? Like that. Go ahead.
Okay. Someone is asking, why are people so worried about children's physical health, but not their mental or emotional health, which is more important? Which is more important? The physical, emotional, the mental and emotional, or the physical?
I think that, I've shown you enough data now that I think you guys can conclude safely that kids are basically safe from COVID. That doesn't mean all kids. There's going to be a few, right? There are always a few, but basically kids are safe from COVID. So now you are, by locking them up in a house. Let me give you an example. I have a daughter. She has special needs. She's 22 years old. She has Down syndrome. I have 2 other boys too. One's in college. But she has Down syndrome, and we have to lock her up all day long in the house every day. Okay. She's a very sociable person. She wants to be at school with her friends. She wants to be out, hugging people and interacting with people. We have to keep her locked up. She's miserable. It's what we're doing to her is not fair. At my school where I teach, I have children that have issues. Like even though they're super bright kids, some of them are autistic. Like Rain Man. They're super brilliant, but they've got issues. And those kids, they can't learn online. So we're sacrificing their emotional nurture, their emotional development. I mean, when did you date your boyfriends and girlfriends in high school? That's out the window, okay? Interacting at school with your teachers one-on-one, so you're damaging your education. Our special needs kids, we're just basically throwing them over the back fence. So all this damage. Now, the CDC publishes information about suicides as well and medication. And those are through the roof this year. People are self-medicating way too much. Remember, we've been fighting the OxyContin thing, right? And fentanyl plagues, essentially epidemics. Those are through the roof. We were making progress on that. Not anymore. Those are all back. So not only our kids, but also our adults are suffering tremendously. So it's sort of like you might be protecting people by forcing them to stay home. So maybe, and I don't think so, and I could show you data for this, maybe we're reducing the deaths a little bit because of that. But we're causing all these other problems and increasing deaths because of that. So even some of these excess deaths in my graph, they might actually be caused by what we're doing. They might, by the mitigation we're doing, might actually cause more deaths than if we just said, hey, guys, protect your elderly people, use good hygiene, take care of your health, go to work, go to school. We might have actually had less deaths, fewer deaths if we'd done that. And I have an example of that with Sweden. I can show you those data if you'd like to see. But anyway, I tried to answer your question first.
Yeah, yes, I would like to see that, because I'm thinking, I mean, there is so much at stake. There is so much at stake. And I know we have trained ourselves to be, to run to our political affiliations and to sit there and to defend it. But this COVID, like so many other things we're contending with, is not just a Republican versus Democrat issue. This is all of our issues. And as the good Dr. Frank has just explained to us, the unintended consequences, right? You think you may be doing good by forcing children to stay home 100% virtual. I mean, I'm a homeschool mom, and I never allow my children to be taught 100% virtually.
No.
Because it's not the same. No. So we go out and find other things, or I teach them. It's the interaction of it all. Or we find social groups that we become a part of, because one thing I learned is that all kids don't learn that way. It's not good for the overwhelming majority of kids. And what you want them to, but also, just the drugs, the OxyContin, the opioid addiction, people losing their businesses, their jobs, poverty, red lines, all of these things are happening. Whether you're a Democrat, independent, not affiliated with anything, a diehard Republican, it is incumbent upon each of us to go out there and to demand that our leaders provide us with the data they're using to implement their policies. It's not okay to have a smirk. And Democrats, independents, I often say liberals need not apply. I'm not even talking to liberals right now. I'm not talking to Marxists or those who want socialists to come into the nation. But the overwhelming majority of Democrats are not that way. I know that for a fact.
I agree.
So this district is not socialist. I believe Democrat leaders have overplayed their hands on this. And so I don't care who you are. I understand some of you, like liberals, Marxists, socialists, it's going to be very difficult for you to think outside of your agenda or your ideology. But for the overwhelming majority of us, we're really good people. We're parents. We love our children. We all love our children. We want our babies to thrive. We want our neighbors to do well. We don't want to see their businesses closed. And If you are very fearful and you are believing what Governor Wolf and my opponent is saying, then at least do yourself and the rest of us a favor. Request the data and allow the data to tell us what is real. I mean, I will listen to data. I have never said I know everything. God, you cannot get from a pig farm to where I'm sitting right now thinking you have all the answers, because you don't. I started off with great deficiencies, but I overcame them by looking for, trying to search out truth, wherever that truth may be, and trying to apply it to my life. That's how you go from there to here. And that is incumbent upon all of us. It doesn't matter. I'm not even speaking to you as just the Republican candidate, but as a fellow American, as a mom, as a parent who want our babies to thrive and be in the best situation possible. I'm speaking to you as a neighbor who want to see our neighbors thrive and do well. We need to see the data. If the data is there, why not present it? Look what Dr. Frank just showed us. It is understandable. We are not stupid people. They do not know more than us. No one of us, not one person I've spoken to would have stuffed a COVID-19 positive patient into a nursing home. All of us are smart enough to know that we knew enough to know that those who were older in age and had compromised immune systems needed to be protected. Every single person I've talked to was smarter than the whole bunch of politicians, Governor Wolf and his whole cabinet. We're smarter than them. We would have known not to do that. So please request that information right along with me and the rest of us. Let's look at the data. And the data is telling us to do something completely different than Dr. Frank, then I will go with that. Trust and believe, because I want us to be safe and I want us to do the right things. Dr. Frank, we only have a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Oh my goodness. What do you want to leave us with?
Well, I think, I've done 30 countries now and all the states. And you guys can see this graph that I've got up here still?
Okay, keep the graph up. Mm-hmm.
Look at the shape of this state, right? You've got this peak and it fades away. When I was showing you the United States, you notice there's a peak and it fades away, a peak, it fades away, peak, it fades away. Guess what? In Sweden, you've got a peak and it fades away. There's Sweden. Peak and it fades away.
And they never shut down.
And it's gone. But Sweden didn't shut down.
Right.
So in other words, COVID's going to do what it's going to do, mostly regardless of what we do. Now, putting people in rest homes, that's a dumb idea, okay? But in the general population and all the random kind of situations, COVID's going to do what it's going to do. So in other words, people, we need to be humble. We need to recognize that we're not going to be able to stop a lot of it. Some of it's going to happen. So rather than trusting our politicians to tell us what to do, like what you're saying, Kathy, we should hunker down and protect the people that are vulnerable. It's not our social actions that are protecting them. It's not closing our schools that is protecting them. It's not closing our businesses that's protecting them. It's individuals protecting the people they love. Let's protect them. One of my students came home from college. He quarantined himself for 2 weeks in the basement because his mom is compromised health-wise. Why would he do that? Because he loves his mom. Did he need the government to tell him to quarantine or force him to quarantine? No, he protected his mom. Okay, so that's what I want to leave you with.
You know what? Put back up that Montgomery chart again, Doctor, please. The Montgomery County one, just so people can see that as we close out here.
There you go.
Yeah, look at that. You see the peak. That was back in March, May.
Yep.
And as you move forward,
away to basically
there we are right there.
That's where you are right now.
Why, oh why, are our schools going 100% virtual? That is the question.
Doesn't make sense to me.
That is the question, based on data. Now, if there is other data, please contact me at kathybarnett4congress.com. I will bring you on. I will sit down and talk with you. However you want to make your data known to us, I will listen. I will listen. I do not know everything. That's why, I do not try to reinvent the wheel. I go out. This is outside of my pay grade. That's why I went to Dr. Frank. This is what he does, and he's been very good at it, very effective. He's become a subject matter expert on all things COVID related. And if you have information and it is contrary to this data, I don't want your opinions or your stories or about your uncle Billy who was talking to cousin Sally and somebody told Tim something. I don't want that. But if you have data that is to the contrary, we need to know this, and we all need to be asking our elected officials, from my opponent on down to or on over to Governor Wolf and on down to our commissioners. These people work for us. And when I saw the video of Governor Wolf smirking, yeah, I got it, but I'm not going to show it to you. Literally, Google it. They asked for the data. He said, yeah, I got it. I'm not going to give it to you. And he just smirked. Like what? So, like what are you going to do about it? Right? That is anathema, people. We should know this information. We are not children. We are raising our children. We are intelligent people. That's the ingenuity of America. There is no other country like us. Give us a problem, we will solve it. By golly, we will solve it. And so, Dr. Frank, thank you so much. Any parting words?
Follow the data. Pray every day.
Yeah.
Use good hygiene and protect the ones you love. And send your kids to school.
Thank you very much, Dr. Frank. We appreciate you. I'm sure we will be having you back. I see so many people out there. Guys, if you have questions, send them to me, and then I will send them over to Dr. Frank. And maybe we have another show, right? Because this thing, right now they have it, the kid, they're going to reassess everything the day after the election. I don't know. Maybe it's coincidence. Who knows? But it is what it is. Listen, I want to give you guys an admonition because I was convicted last night. We had a national country music star fly in and do a concert. I will not tell you the name because some of y'all don't have good sense and you would try to cancel the poor person, and that's not good. But we had an amazing time, and this person is very young, and one of the things that was said reminded me back in 2016. I felt like we were given a reprieve. I don't care if you like Donald Trump or not. I don't really care, okay? But we were given a reprieve. We deserved Hillary Clinton. I know some of y'all love her, but we deserved her and all the foolishness that would have come with her. But we did not get her. Instead, we were given a reprieve. And for so many of us, it was an opportunity for us to use that time to go and to compete in the marketplace of ideas, to put our thoughts and our values out there, right? Whether you like my values or not, this is America. The same First Amendment that applies to you applies to me as well. And although we may not agree on everything, it is incumbent upon us to be able to act like grown folks, sit down and have a conversation with one another, right? You're not right. You don't have all the answers. I'm not right. I don't have all the answers. But together, right, we should be able to come together and have conversations. All of this divisiveness, division has done nothing to improve either side of the political aisle. We're all worse off today than when we started 4 years ago. That's a fact. We're all worse off today. But I was reminded, instead of us on our side of the aisle, Republicans, going out there and, and being very rigorous with our ideas and our opinions. We relied on President Trump to do everything. We relied on his mega rallies. We relied on him bringing down the hammer and throwing people, cleaning out the swamp, or whatever other phrases he was saying. We were relying on him, and we were all kicking our feet up and just enjoying the ride. And now we're all saying Donald Trump better fix this whole mail-in voting thing, right? Well, let's just wait. And we're all sitting back waiting for this man who has not only the pressures of the world, but the whole Democratic machine coming after him right now, including, because, mainstream media like CNN and others are part of the DNC apparatus. Yes, they should be separate, but they're not. And so he's walking around carrying all of this, and now he's carrying you and I sitting back waiting for him to figure it all out for us. We need to be out there. I need you guys to be out there knocking on every door. Please go to kathybarnettforcongress.com and subscribe to my email, to my newsletter. Subscribe to my newsletter by going to kathybarnettforcongress.com. We just put out a whole host of our policies. Go out there, watch my videos, read my positions on my policies. I'm not hiding. You won't find Democrats giving you their policies, because what they have in store for all of us is utterly ridiculous. And they know that if we really knew what they had cooking, we would reject them whole cloth. We wouldn't give them the time of day. No one is talking to us about, my opponent is not talking about the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act, because she knows that if we really knew what that was going to do, and it doesn't take long. My children can understand it. When I explain it to my kids, they understood it immediately. We will understand it, but they don't want to talk to us about that, right? They don't want to talk to us about what happens when defunding the police has its way. They don't want to talk to us about their new way forward immigration bill and what it really means for the right to return home. When the law becomes retroactive, everyone we've deported will have the right to return home at our tax dollar expense. They're not talking about their positions. But please go to kathybarnettforcongress.com. Learn who I am. Do yourself a favor, because we cannot be more opposite. We are not the same on anything. Someone asked me, what do you and your opponent agree on? Nothing. We agree on nothing. We're both women. We both drink a lot of water. That's about it. We agree on nothing. You should know what my opponent's vision for this district and our nation is, and you should know what mine is. Why will she not debate me? You need to start asking Democrat, Independent, Republicans. You need to start flooding my opponent. I'm gonna give you her name once, Madeline Dean, because most of you don't even know who she is. She's been representing us for 2 years, and all throughout this district, most of you don't even know who she is. But go to her Facebook page, go to her Twitter page, go to her office, send her emails, call her and ask, why will you not debate? Why will you not have a debate on your vision for this district and the nation versus your opponent, Kathy Barnett? We deserve that, because we agree on nothing, people. That's how diabolical I see the issues of the left for us and for our families. So I need you to do your part. We need to start knocking on doors. You need to start signing up for meet and greets. We're all over the place. You need to do your part and make sure I'm coming to your neighborhood, as well as hosting a whole lot of other different things. But contact us. Let that be the first step. Sign up for our newsletters, and we will be in touch with you. Guys, thank you so much. And don't forget to send me your testimonials, okay? Because next week, I'll be airing you. Talk to you later. Blessings.
I understand the providential set of circumstances that would allow a little black girl who grew up on a pig farm in southern Alabama to be standing here today. I grew up in a house with no insulation, no running water. When my grandmother used to ask me to come and help her in the garden, I thought she just wanted to spend quality time with me. I had no idea it was for our survival. I tell my children often, because of the sacrifices of those who have come before us, both white and black, we have an obligation in this country to live well. That if I am willing to put forth the effort, if I am willing to work, if I am willing to discipline myself, perhaps I won't be Oprah Winfrey or Bill Gates, but that in America, I can carve out a respectable life for myself. Every 4 years, Democrats come to minority communities with a bag full of promises. Free education, universal health care, open borders, guaranteed jobs, guaranteed wages. I have had a front row seat of watching failed liberal policies literally devastate the black community, that they are now presenting to the broader American culture with the exact same promise to leave all of us broke, broken, and bruised. They will cause me to look at my brown skin as though it has betrayed me in some fashion. I am not a victim. We are victors. If you want to eradicate income inequality, give someone a job, not another program. I believe politics is dirty by design. They intend for good people not to get involved. And for so long, good people like myself and you, we've been sitting on the sidelines. If you want to send good people to Washington, D.C., who will finally begin to represent you and your family, then I need your support. I am running for you to preserve this nation for the next generation. My name is Kathy Barnett, and I am running for U.S. Congress for the 4th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. I am Kathy Barnett, candidate for Congress, and I approve this ad.